Welcome to the Fish Bowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and I'll be doing this show solo tonight. Juicy does have the night off. So anyway, let's get right down to it here. Breaking news: Georgia is your national champion. So the odds to win the title season next year is Georgia 15-4, Alabama 11-2, Ohio State 13-2, LSU and Michigan. They also pop up on the list at 14-1 odds next year to win national championship. So with Georgia going back to back, congratulations to them. They routed TCU. So I mean, it wasn't even much of a game. They ran away with this one. It was just a barrage of offensive performance. Georgia's defense destroyed TCU's offense. They turned the ball over a lot. TCU did in the first half, and it just got out of hand really quickly in that game. Juicy and I both said on this podcast that we both were going to pick Georgia to win, and that's what we felt like it, and we were correct in tonight's game. So congratulations to them on another great season. TCU, they had a great year as well, and it's just just the way it happens, right? So Georgia beats TCU, routes them out. Not even a competition on the field. They were obviously the better team in tonight's game, hands down. Anyway, so now college football's done. We have to wait until end of August, early September, till next season comes around, and we get to do all this all over again. It's gonna be a long 7 months and 2 weeks, basically. So we'll see what happens until then. But we got basketball and baseball coming up, so that's gonna hold us up really well until then. So anyway, here we go. So first off, we're gonna talk about the Ragin Cajuns. We were over there Saturday when they played Georgia State. The Cajuns shot the ball very well from the floor. Like the last two games, the Cajuns shot about 48 to 49% from the field. So if we're looking at stats and stuff here, the Cajuns were 46.4% from the field goal percentage shooting wise in the first half. In the second half, they dropped down a little bit to 46.2%. Georgia State did make a comeback in this game toward the second half, but the Cajuns were able to pull away towards the end of it. Georgia State was never really in command of the game. The Cajuns led for 34 minutes in the ball games, and Georgia State, they only had 4 minutes. So they scored more in the second half. Georgia State did. They got off to a bad start in the first half, them only getting 26 points, and the Cajuns had 41 points. They roared back and outscored the Cajuns 44 to 37 points, but ended with a final score of 78 to 70. So for the game, the Cajuns shot 46.3% from the floor and 40% beyond the arc. Them beyond the arc shots, they were hot from beyond the arc in the first half. They were shooting 54.5%. Georgia State, they couldn't do anything at all on beyond the arc in the first half. They're 25% shooting wise. If you look at both these teams here, you got to wonder what was the difference in this game here. Free throws are kind of they're freebies, right? And the Cajuns made 90% of them in that first half, which really helped them grow out to the lead, and they dropped down to the 65% in that second half. So literally here for the game, they shot 73.3%. Georgia State shot 69.2%. This is usually a good rivalry for the Cajuns in basketball. This is like their best rival they have in basketball. They've competed for a lot of Sun Belt championships between these two programs. They usually meet up in the championship game. This time we went to the Cajuns here. So it's been about 500 when they go to Lafayette and play each other, but when the Cajuns have to go on the road to Atlanta to take on Georgia State, it's usually Georgia State coming away with the victory there. But Georgia State does lead the series against the Cajuns, but the Cajuns are able to get the win over them. And Jordan Brown had a very good night. He is the leader of the Cajuns here, so if you look at what's going on here, and he was 8 of 10 for the free throw line, and he just had a really good night because I'm trying to see where there's like a big, oh, okay, the 3-point shooting. Yeah, that was the big difference in this game. Cajuns didn't make any in the second half when they were shooting, but they really didn't need to because they had a big lead. No risk to really take the risk that toward the second half there if you're going to try even do any of that. So, offensive rebounding, Cajuns had 13 offensive rebounds. Georgia State, they only had 8. And them offensive rebounds make a big difference at some point. So, that's what happened in this game here. And it was quite obvious who, so, I mean, you look down this list here, there are 4 lead changes in the game, but the Cajuns really did well early on. What really hurt Georgia State, if you look at this game, was their 3-point shooting in the first half. Only shooting 25% beyond the arc. Cajuns were shooting 54%, and the Cajuns they took 11 3-point shots, and they made 6. So that's 18 points compared to their 6. That's 12 points right there. And whenever you look at the halftime score, between it was 41 to 26, so that 12. Let's say if they were able to match them, right there, boom. That was your difference in the first half. They'd been 38 to 41. They would have won this game if they were able to match the Cajuns in 3-point shooting. So that was the big difference in the ball game. The Cajuns were able to knock down beyond the arc and really get after Georgia State on defense, really clamping down on them here. So, and the Cajuns, if you look at, they shot about 48-49% between the two games, but Southern Miss, they ended up beating them. I thought they were going to split these games. Southern Miss is 13 and 3. They're 2 and 1 when they played, and then the Cajuns were 11 and 4 and 1 and 2, and that's what they got their first win. And they really stuffed Southern Miss in that first half. The Cajuns got off to a hot start, shooting 51% from the floor. For the game, they were at 50%, so that's why I'm like at 48%. They shot 46% against Georgia State. So look, that's one thing that really, I think, helped the Cajuns here in that game to fill the first half. The Cajuns get off to better starts in these games, and that they're able to kind of just pull it through and just keep going the second half, maintaining what they got. That's the difference between these two wins in the Sun Belt. So if the Cajuns continue going off these hot starts that they've been having, they're going to have a lot of success in the Sun Belt Conference when we get down to playing these other games here. So let's look ahead here and see what the Cajuns have to look ahead to. And the men they're going to be playing, they're going to go up to Southern Arkansas, which is UL Monroe, or ULM, and then they're playing South Alabama. So between these two, they should beat ULM. They should. Now, granted, this is one of those games. I think it's kind of a trap one. And then they go on the road to take on South Alabama. A lot of miles. It might catch up to one of them. I think they'll beat ULM. I think South Alabama's a pretty good team. I think in terms of if you look at what they've been able to do so far this year. Looking at, let's see here. So South Alabama, I think their record's a little misleading. They're 7 and 9, and they're 1 and 3 in conference. So if you look at who they played Alabama and Oklahoma. That's 2 losses right there. If you look at their schedule here, UAB kind of up here, and they Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Arkansas State. They beat them, and they lost to Texas State. So it's not like they got blown out in these games either. But me, Georgia Southern. So they got to play James Madison, and then they play the Cajuns. I think the Cajuns should win both these games, but I'm worried about the travel distance between the two because like I said, Cajuns win these games by getting off to a hot start in the first half, and they're able to just keep going here. So I think they'll win both the next games here. But I will warn, I think they might actually drop one of these. Cajuns are 2 and 2. They might be 3 and 3 when they play Arkansas State. But if I'm looking at this from the perspective I'm looking at it, I think they'll get. Nah, we'll go with 4-2 because that'd be a big difference in record there for the Cajuns here. So let's look at Sun Belt Conference standings here for the men's basketball standings here. Let's see if they'll even pull this up for me here. So currently, Southern Miss is leading the conference at 3-1. Their only loss is to the Cajuns. So, you know, UOM, they're sitting at 3-1 in the conference so far. The top four teams are Troy, Georgia Southern, UOM, and Southern Miss. Cajun already beat one of them. So, it's going to be interesting to see. South Alabama's toward the bottom of this list here. They're 1-3 so far. I mean, it's still early. This is still an early season for sure. But I think that might all change. You know, they got Coastal, Georgia State, Arkansas State. A lot of people didn't expect Georgia State to be down that far down, but I mean, we're really early in the season. So if you look at overall record, the team with the best record right now, if you're looking at them, is Southern Miss, and they're 14-3. They haven't lost at home. And Marshall, that'd be your two teams here. So we'll see what happens. 13-4, and the Cajuns you could say be the third best team in the conference right now. Cajuns were predicted to win the whole entire Sun Belt, and I think they got a really good chance to do that this year. That team looked really good Saturday night. I was really pleased with the way they spread the ball around, in and out, in and out, in and out. Really making the defense work to rotate over and get their guys in their face to contest these shots. So their defense rotated very well, and that's been the difference in these games here. Really getting off great start to these games here, and able to put pressure on Georgia State and Southern Miss. They both have struggled in that game mightily, shooting the ball in the first half, whether it be behind the arc or just shooting 2-point field goals. So I got Cajuns win these next two though. So that's what I'm sticking with here. So now we're gonna switch gears here, and we're gonna go to the Ragin Cajun women. They picked up a win this over the weekend here. So they're not having as much success like overall as the men. If you look at their record, they're 8-8, and they're playing South Alabama as their next game. They're 2-2 in conference play so far. They had to play it really good. Yeah, they beat Georgia State, then they lost to Southern Miss, and they won Texas State. So they've been kind of back and forth with how they've been doing this year. So let's look at this here real quick here. So playing against Texas State, the Cajuns in basically the second period they really struggled, shooting only 23%. In the first they were shooting 53%, third 64%, in the fourth 43%. So for the game they were shooting 46.8, which is really the difference in the game because Texas State only shot 32% from the floor. Beyond the arc, 38.5 for the Cajuns, 25% for Texas State. Now free throws, Cajuns did get beat 71 to 64% in that category, but it was the field goals and the 3-point shooting that was the big difference in this ball game here. So hey, I mean, they made the difference here. They beat 71 to 51 over Texas State. So that was a good win because Texas State's 10-5 so far this year, and they fall to 2-2 in conference play there. So Tamara Johnson and Sierra Wren, she made all her shots 4 for 4, like to win these 4 for 4 deals. So I mean, hey, they looked very good here. Gary Broadhead and them have them really well coached. So we'll see what happens here. We're gonna see how that all plays out here as we go on further on in the year. So predictions for them, they'll probably go 500 is what I'm thinking here. They're not consistent enough for me to be like, yeah, they're gonna go 4-2 like the men. I feel more comfortable picking the men's games than I do the women's games, just because of the consistency we see with the men. Like, but basketball is kind of a weird sport. Not really like baseball, like we saw it with the like we saw it with James Madison's leading the way in the women's, which they're 4-0, which they're a brand new addition. So in conference play, Cajuns are sitting right there in the middle of the pack here. So South Alabama's 0-4, and you're wondering with Troy being in there, Troy's 3-1. So if you're gonna win one of these, you gotta absolutely win South Alabama. They're 4-11. They're doing very poorly in basketball this year, struggling mightily. So Cajuns have to win that one. I think I'll agree. I think they will beat that one. And then I think once you get down to them playing against Troy here, that's gonna be a tough one. And I think they're gonna lose that one. But then again, Troy's 3-1. They're 8-7. Cajuns are 8-8. So they look like they're kind of even here. If you're looking at them, Cajuns struggle on the road. They're 2-4 on the road so far. So they gotta start winning these road games here because they get South Isle at home. They gotta go on the road to take on Troy. Then you get Old Dominion, Arkansas State. Right after that, Old Dominion's kind of tied. It's tied with the Cajuns right now, and Arkansas State toward the bottom. So your next couple of games, you're gonna have to start winning these games here. And Georgia Southern's right up there, right on that list as well here. They're on the road, so that's another tough one for the Cajuns here. Then they get App State. So they gotta take care of. They gotta win some road games. What it come down to. So give me the Cajuns to beat South Alabama, but I got them losing to Troy. I'm gonna go with a 1-1. I think 500 would be best case scenario for them. Now let's switch gears and talk about LSU. LSU is coming off of a disappointing loss to Texas A&M. And before everybody starts freaking out, the Tigers only had 56 points in this game. They're 1-2. Texas A&M's 2-0. Very disappointing loss on the road. But let's look down at the stats and see how this actually ended up this way. So, for the game from the field, the Tigers shot terribly in the first half. They were shooting 28%. And beyond the arc, 28.57% for both from the floor and beyond the arc. They were perfect for free throws. For the game, they shot only 34% from the floor, which went up to 42% in the second half. But it's rough, man. It's a tough one because 42 and then 3-point in the second half, they really lit it up 62%, shooting very well from beyond the arc in that game. But you lose 69-56. That was a shocker for sure. And if you look how Texas A&M shot from their perspective, they were at 46 and 37%. So whenever you have a big difference like that, they didn't shoot beyond the arc that much. They only shot 8 times beyond the arc in the second half, but they only got 12%. So Tigers were definitely catching up in the second half with their 3-point shooting, but they still shot 50% from the floor. So it didn't really do too much there. So points off turnover, 17 points for Texas A&M. LSU They only had 10. They didn't have a big lead over them. LSU just played really bad this game. Not much you can say. Was it a fluke? We're going to find out pretty soon here when they take on Florida and number 4 Alabama. So, looking ahead here, LSU lost to Kentucky. Kentucky's a good team. Arkansas is a good team. I think LSU beats Florida. I think they'll get it back on track and win, but I think they'll lose to Alabama. So, yeah, that's gonna be a tough one. So, LSU's website made an error for sure. On Saturday, they have the LSU men's basketball ranked number 5, but that was the women. So, that's an error there because they don't have that ranking anywhere else. Probably just a typo. You know, it is what it is. It's gonna be an ESPN, so it's gonna be a really good game, I think. So I think LSU beats Florida, but I think they'll lose to Alabama. So we'll see what happens there in those games there. So speaking of the SEC race, let's see where in the Southeastern Conference. The men's kind of in the middle there, but as far as LSU women go, they lead the conference tied with South Carolina, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Ole Miss and Tennessee. So they're four-way tie. South Carolina, LSU are 16-0. South Carolina is a very good ball club this year, so I feel more confident in LSU women than I do the men. Because, it's Matt McMahon's first year at LSU, so he's going through a little phase, right? He's trying to get everybody kind of on the same page and, try to see what he really has and what he needs to really build on. So, anyway, you got to give a new coach time. So, I mean, they're doing good so far this year, so we'll see. But anyway, Kim Mulkey's second year is doing better than her first year. And her first year was probably more impressive than what she did so far this year, which is debatable. South Carolina remains the unanimous number 1 team in the country. So, that's going to be a big showdown. And that we still got another 8 games before we get to that. That's on February 12th. It will be on ESPN. Unfortunately for LSU, they got to go on the road to take on South Carolina. I wish these two teams played twice this year because that would be awesome to see. Because that's going to be a good basketball game to see. So anyway, as far as Missouri and Auburn go, Missouri so far this year, they're 14-3. They're 3-1 in conference. It's going to be a tough game for LSU. But I think they'll beat Missouri. Them playing against Auburn. Auburn's not doing that great this year. Gonna be a really tough one for Auburn, I think. LSU should win both those games and continue their undefeated season in the SEC. So if you're looking down, they're 0-4, they're 10-6. When you get in conference play, it really separates who the good teams are from the bad teams amongst your peers and how well you're doing. So, yeah, it's just not looking good for those ball clubs. Auburn, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, and Texas A&M. Texas A&M is just not doing great. They're 5-9 so far this year. So, it's going to be a tough one them to recover from all that and see what's going on. But I think LSU should win those next 2 games. They've been, if you want to go down deeper into the stats of their last 2 games against Kentucky and Texas A&M. But, LSU's record can be fool's gold. Their best win, if you look at their conference schedule, Arkansas is their best win. They're 16-3 and 3-1. But if you look at that's one game, that's just one. They still got a lot of work to do because they've played Vanderbilt, the 3 worst teams in the SEC, so far LSU women's have played. I think they're like Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and Kentucky. These next three games with Missouri, Auburn, and Arkansas, that's going to tell you a tale. That's going to tell you a lot more about this team here. This next three-game stretch will. Now I know Auburn's 0-4. I know they're 10-6, so it's going to be kind of one of those. But you got Arkansas and Missouri. That's really going to tell you how good this LSU women's basketball team is in the SEC. This is going to be kind of their prove it deal here. So then they got Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia right after that. That's their next three-game series. Which that one there, the test then would be Tennessee. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that there. So thank y'all for tuning in to the Fishbowl Radio here. I hope y'all have a great and wonderful week here. We covered a lot here today, and I think that's going to do very well here. So hopefully, like I said, congratulations Georgia. They won national championship. And LSU, we're going to see how these predictions go. I really don't know what's going to happen out there. But 16-0 is the best start LSU ever got in their women's program history, which is saying a lot because you had like legends like Simone Augustus and Sylvia Fowles that are part of this women's program here, making it to the Final Four. Big deal for back in the mid 2000s and earlier 2000s for LSU. So Kim Mulkey's definitely got the program trending in the right direction here, but these next two games are going to be a big one for LSU to see how they're going to do this year in conference play. So we'll see what happens. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hope you have a great and wonderful week. We'll see y'all next week.